my favorite's the fully pleated one because the fully pleated jacket I started making and I knew it was going to be insane.
Okay, what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to talk about our newest design concept, and we're doing 3 one-of-a-kind jackets for it, and we're going to tell you a little bit about the process of the materials that we ended up using, how we got them, why we chose different design concepts, and really give you a behind-the-scenes look at that.
What were some of the guiding factors of this concept?
So probably the biggest guiding factor of this concept was actually based on the material that we ended up using. A little bit of a background of like where we got the material from is, so Greg and I love to pick up free furniture on the side of the road, and when we were driving down, I think it was like 20th Street on the east side of Manhattan, we saw a ton of desk chairs outside. So we pulled over and all these people were closing their office and putting a ton of like perfectly good furniture, perfectly good swatch books on the street, and of course, like we opened up some of the garbage bags and looked at what was inside of them. So we saw this like really nice like painter's canvas, like a painter's tarp and a drop cloth, and they were relatively clean. So we got 3 huge black garbage bags full of that material. We even got a microwave, a refrigerator, and an espresso machine, all from this office being closed. So when we got this fabric, we knew that we really wanted to do something special with it because we don't often come across fabrics like that, and we were really fortunate to have found this material literally headed towards landfill, like it was going to be on the street in the trash.
How many yards do you think we found?
We probably found, I'm gonna say like 10 to 15 yards. One of them was like really heavy. The weave was so tight, and the point of that is so that when paint actually drips from the wall, it can't seep down into like, it can't seep through that fabric, so that's why it's so heavy and so rigid. And then the other one was a bit lighter weight of like a painter's tarp. So we were thinking about like how we wanted to design with them. We thought that the outside of it needed to be really structured because the fabric was so beautiful. And if you manipulated it, it would really hold its shape. So that guided like a ton of the design process that we ended up taking for this.
So you went into the details a little bit that were driven by the fabric itself, with it being so stiff and structured. Can you talk a little bit more about the design elements that are seen in the concept?
Yeah, so in this piece specifically, we ended up wanting to work, or in these pieces, we wanted to work with something that would bring a lot of structure to the garments. So something that we rarely work with but is such a beautiful element is pleating. So a lot of pleating can be done just using like heat to press it permanently in there. But because we wanted to do this in small quantities and kind of experiment where it would be on the garment, we ended up looking up these techniques that are almost like a form of origami and create this like really beautiful structure. So we started experimenting like where the different elements would go on the piece. We did one sample that we kind of liked, and then just wanted to kind of push ourselves outside of like what the material was and how can we like make these elements more than just like one small detail on the garment.
For the first sample that we chose not to pursue as much, why do you think we moved away from that?
So I think we moved away from that first piece because it felt just like a little bit simple. There was a really beautiful detail on the back of it, but I think with the color of the canvas being a natural cotton, so it's like this like beige color, it felt like a sample. It didn't feel like completed. So we actually took that sample and we ended up making it in this beautiful black denim that we got from Cone Mills, which is like the last US-based denim manufacturer. So we were able to source that denim, and we actually took that original concept, made it with the black denim, but added top stitching, because I think top stitching is one of those details that actually like really brings out all of the work that you end up putting into a piece. Because if you add, 5 different seams on a jacket, but none of them are highlighted through different top stitching, you kind of lose all of that work and that beautiful detailing. So I think that's kind of how our thought process got altered on, you know, not loving the initial piece that we did, but then moving to use a different fabric, even though it was inspired initially by that canvas color.
Can you explain what the concept is made up of?
So the concept is made up of 2 jackets made out of this found and repurposed canvas. And the third piece is actually made from dead stock black denim that we source from Cone Mills with their white oak plant. And that is those are what incorporates the 3 pieces. And then we ended up using design elements that carry throughout all of them. So they all have this pleating detail incorporated in a different way, which is really beautiful because it allows like the concept to be told through different mediums and through different silhouettes. So the first silhouette is a like cropped, boxier shape black denim jacket that has beautiful contrast top stitching and then pleating details all throughout the back of it. The second piece that we ended up doing actually is almost reminiscent of a trench coat, and it has a very beautiful unisex fit. So we actually made this whole piece fully in this canvas, and we really loved the way it looked, but part of me felt that it was missing something. Like there was so much work that went into it, but because it was this natural cotton color, it felt a little bit like lackluster. So we got really inspired just by like paint, and we love doing that. It's such a form of like therapy, I think, for us to just clear our heads and to do like abstract painting. So we ended up getting black paint and painting the entire jacket this really beautiful like abstract like strokes, because you could still see the canvas coming through, but like I said before, because the fabric weave is so tight, none of it seeps through to the lining. So it has this like really cool dimensional element to it with full pleating down the side. And then the final piece that we ended up pushing ourselves really, really hard to end up creating is actually a super cropped, almost bolero style jacket that is fully pleated. So every single part of this jacket has pleats down the back, down the sleeves, which means every single inch of the fabric ended up creating only a ½ inch of material. So there's a ton of effort and love that went into it, and because you're putting a stitch through these pleats, it ends up pulling them in different directions. That creates this kind of wave form. So those are kind of how we were able to incorporate this idea of pleating and structure throughout all 3 of these pieces to create a story around this found material and how we're able to completely transform it and change, you know, what it was and the value that it had.
So I feel like from that answer I have a guess of my own, but which one is your favorite?
My favorite's the fully pleated one, because the fully pleated jacket I started making and I knew it was going to be insane. I sketched it beforehand and I knew it was going to be really, really difficult to end up finishing, and I thought that maybe I wouldn't put the pleating on the sleeves and I would, you know, tone it down a little bit in different elements. But I think internally, like being able to push through the challenges of this jacket taking a tremendous amount of time and seeing the final result and the impact that it has when someone sees it is like the most amazing feeling.
How long did each jacket take?
So with the black cropped jacket, that took about 2.5 days worth of time. It's fully lined, so it's lined with denim as well, and it has all of that top stitch detailing, which tends to be pretty time intensive. So that was about 2.5 days. The longest trench coat was about between 3 and 4 days, because after the 3 days of creating the full garment, we actually ended up painting it for an entire day, and Greg and I both had a hand in painting that. And then after you paint it, you actually have to heat set all of the paint. And because the jacket's so large, that does, of course, take a lot of time. And then the final piece with all the pleated, with like every surface area being pleated, because we don't pleat this with heat, we actually pleat it all with stitch. It took about 5 days in total to complete that whole garment.
Okay, now let's talk a little bit about of the process after we finished designing and creating the pieces themselves. Um, how did we go about creating content around the pieces and the editorial direction afterwards?
So the editorial direction is always our favorite process of like brainstorming and finding inspiration. It's just so much fun to see how these can finally have their story like fully told through editorial photography. And we had, being from Long Island, we had actually been to this beautiful cove on the North Shore called Pirates Cove, and it has this like tremendously large hill, and so much of it is just like this sleet of like monochromatic like beige and tan colors. And I think because the one jacket specifically is fully pleated and only in this beige color, but it has so much texture to it, we knew that this specific location would really balance those textures like beautifully. So we really wanted to like showcase the canvas and all of the textures we were able to create through stitch, pleating, and the paint in this specific location. So that was kind of the direction in terms of the location we wanted to choose. And then when we styled, we really wanted to go with this like monochromatic look, and luckily the brands that we ended up styling with are all from the Better Shop, which is our really great friends store of all ethical and sustainable designers. So it just was really great for us to be able to communicate not only what we're doing in a sustainable way, but also to incorporate other designers that have very similar missions. I mean, that's always been a huge part of like when we do editorial photography, how we're going to style it. And then when it comes to the model, our really great friend, my friend from like 2 years old, Steph, she is an amazing model and has such a unique ethnicity, and I think kind of the blending of all of these elements really helped to bring the whole concept together, styling with these monochromatic looks that are all ethically and sustainably made in this environment that really just like feels like it almost takes your breath away to see where we shot it. And I think that was so amazing and kind of helped tell the entire story.
So we just shot all of that yesterday. Can you describe like some of your favorite shots that you remember from editing the photos and why they're your favorite?
So my favorite shots are definitely the ones where the details are like so gritty and fine. There's this one image where the pleating is like the main focus of the image, and then the rings that we styled with are there, and the color of the sand is right there. And I think being able to see like in the pleating, see the stitching is so beautiful, and that's definitely some of my favorite shots. And then the image of the painted trench coat also on top of this huge hill with Steph's hair like blowing in her face is so dramatic, and I think it kind of just like messages the point of like the drama that we're trying to put into all these pieces, and like the detailing and the work that we put into it. It shouldn't be it shouldn't go unnoticed. So I think for us to be able to shoot it in such a dramatic way to kind of like showcase how proud we are in these pieces was so beautiful. So those are definitely like my two favorite shots.